On today's episode of Locked On Canucks, the Andrei Kuzmenko sweepstakes have an update. The Canucks deepen their prospect pool once again, going to Sweden. We do a redraft of the 2015 NHL entry draft. And also, I give you guys my Stanley Cup Final prediction. It is Locked On Canucks, and it starts now.
You're Locked On Canucks, your daily podcast on the Vancouver Canucks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Locked On Canucks, the show that keeps you locked in on all things. I'm, of course, your host, Justin Pooney. I hope you guys are having a wonderful Monday, hope you had a wonderful weekend. I want to thank you for making Locked On Canucks your first listen of the day. We, of course, are free and available wherever you get your podcasting services. You can find me at Twitter, at _process sports. You can like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Please then thank you. And also, you can follow our show on Twitter at _process sports. So today, as I mentioned in the open, we're going to have an update on the Andrei Kuzmenko sweepstakes, where the Canucks are listed as one of the finalists. The Canucks, of course, signed another Swedish ex-draft pick, but this time a first-round pick to an entry-level deal. Because the NHL draft is upcoming, I'm going to go back to the last five Canucks first-round picks and tell you whether they were worth it or not. And finally, we have our Stanley Cup Finals matchup set. The Tampa Bay Lightning's three-peat quest continues, and they will take on the Colorado Avalanche. I did predict this on Friday. I said the Lightning will win in Game 6, and they won in Game 6 thanks to their captain, Steven Stamkos. So, first, let's just jump into the news of the day today, where the Canucks signed SHL defenseman Filip Johansson to an entry-level deal. General Manager Patrick Allvin announced today that the Canucks signed the 22-year-old who played for Frölunda of the Swedish Hockey League for the last 2 years, recording 3 goals and 8 assists. In his SHL career, he has 26 points in 132 games. He will stay in Sweden next year, according to Patrick Allvin, but they are looking forward to seeing him at the Vancouver Canucks development camp that will take place at UBC next month. The interesting thing here is Johansson was drafted in the first round of the 2018 draft, 24th overall by the Minnesota Wild, but the Wild did not offer him an entry-level extension by June the 1st, which made him a a free agent, and they acquired a compensatory second-round pick. So what does this mean for the Vancouver Canucks? Well, it means that it deepens their prospect pool, albeit with a 22-year-old prospect. Patrick Allvin said he was going to strengthen the prospect pool by, college free agents from Europe, and he has done that. He signed Niels Aman last week, and today they signed Filip Johansson. So we will see. Like I said, my thought process on these late, early 20s prospects that, were not signed, I see them as big projects. There's a reason why they're not in the NHL or even the AHL at this particular point. There's a reason they're still in Europe, whether that's, they're late bloomers, late developers, or they're just, they need a new change, a new system because, for example, I believe Niels Aman was in Colorado. We know deep that pool was of talent. Filip Johansson was in Minnesota. So we know Minnesota, has a pretty, they're a pretty deep organization. So the Canucks are doing exactly what, they need to do. They're bringing in young players that, potentially can grow and at least at the bare minimum compete for an AHL position. As I mentioned, last week, the Abbotsford Canucks might look vastly different. And there's a lot of work to be done in Abbotsford, where, there's a lot of free agents in Abbotsford as well. And of course they want to, not the only thing for the farm team is to develop prospects, but you want to, put on a good product where fans will want to go watch in Abbotsford because that again helps the Canucks bottom line. So these European free agent signings, we might never see Neil Zaman or Filip Johansson in the NHL whatsoever, but we could be seeing them in Abbotsford. They could be, well on to being solid professional players at the AHL level, even at the NHL level. So, like I said, it's kind of a wait and see approach. It's kind of a okay, we'll see what happens. Potentially, the new Canucks player development program can find some gems. And you know what? If the Canucks, if one or two of these free agent signings or one or two of these late round picks pan out, that's how Detroit built a dynasty or 20-year playoff run, finding guys like Zetterberg and Datsuk and all these guys that were late round picks that eventually through their player development system turned out to be great NHL players. Now I'm not saying these Canucks moves from the last week or so these guys are gonna pan out to be a Zetterberg or a Datsuk, but if they can come in and play in a lower sixth role and fill a void on this roster, that's a W, a massive W right there, because you're not going to be investing dollars and assets into acquiring a 6-7 defenseman, which we all know at the trade deadline, costs you something, or a third or fourth line center, or a bottom six player that does cost you something. This is a low risk, low risk, potentially high reward, or maybe not high reward, but maybe a medium reward type of investment for the Canucks. So, why not? Why not? It doesn't hurt to try. It doesn't hurt. It's not costing you much. So, like I said, the Canucks did sign Filip Johansson from Sweden today, a defenseman, 22-year-old who had some pedigree, first round pick. So we will see what transpires with the development camp and what the Canucks brass thinks of him, along with Neil Zaman and the other signings they have made. Let's go to a potential signing they could make with Russian forward Andrei Kuzmenko, who currently is doing his round of interviews with teams that are in his the finalist teams, excuse me. So there's the Edmonton Oilers, the Vegas Golden Knights. He was in Miami and Detroit, and he's supposed to meet with the Canucks this week. So it looks like I was reading earlier reports were saying that the Canucks were going to fly down to LA and meet him, but it's actually he's going to be coming to Vancouver to meet with the Canucks. So hopefully the weather is good. The weather's been really bad. So hopefully that whatever day he's here, the sun is shining and everybody, he gets a true aspect of how beautiful Vancouver is, not just a rainy area. For the Oilers' sake, hopefully they don't show him anywhere outside the arena. I saw somebody tweet that out on Twitter, and I thought that was pretty funny. Of course, Connor McDavid is in his own hot water. We'll just leave it as that. But the way I see this whole Kuzmenko thing panning out is this. What do the Canucks have to offer that nobody else can? Because at the end of the day, for this particular year, he can only sign a 1-year entry-level deal with a max of $925,000, I believe. But after that, he's going to be looking to get a decent deal. He was second in KHL points this season with 53 in 45 games. And he played the last 4 years in St. Petersburg. Last 4 seasons with St. Petersburg after suiting up for his first 4 with CSK Moscow. So the way I see it is, look, if he's meeting with Vegas, okay, there's Vegas, you have everything there. But we all know Vegas is a very, very cap-strapped team. But if there's one thing we know, Bill Foley and the front office of Vegas will always be aggressive and they will always find a way. Edmonton, of course, they give you an opportunity that like no other. You can play with Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. But again, Edmonton, they have their own salary cap issues, and can you ensure you can pay him his wage long term? The Canucks, his agent Dan Milstein said they were talking to the Canucks execs for a long time. It's a great city, a good place to play, a good team, stable management. So, there's things being said. The PR game is being said. So if I was Andrei Kuzmenko, what I want to sign in Vancouver, well, the city itself is a beautiful city, but on the ice, there's a great product. You can play with Elias Pettersson, a Bo Horvat, 2 very well-established centermen, right? You're not going to be asked to be the top guy, right? You will, of course, be added to that core, because I imagine that if he does sign in Vancouver, there's the handshake kind of behind the scenes deal where, hey, you will sign another longer term deal after this. But look, if he comes in, he's going to be able to play in a top six role. He's going to have another Russian on the team with Vasily Podkolzin, who probably act as a mentor to him. Podkolzin, again, is a young player, but with a great upside. And I saw somebody left in the comments of my video that when I mentioned the other day, where I said the Canucks, the core is 3 or 4 people. Uh, I think somebody mentioned Podkolzin would be in there. I think Podkolzin is safe, but if they would they be willing to ship Podkolzin out for a larger piece that could potentially be an elite player, like for example a David Pastrnak? Would you make the deal if it was Podkolzin and Miller for David Pastrnak with the handshake, with the indication that Pastrnak will sign a long term deal? I think people might take that offer. But like I said, I think Vasily Podkolzin is safe. A part of that core as a young and up and coming player, but you never know. So if I'm Andrei Kuzmenko, of course I can play with Draisaitl, McDavid, and Edmonton, but hungry team, and that probably will, I assume if he signs, he gets to take that Evander Kane role, because as I did mention, it looks like Evander all but gone from Edmonton. It looks like he's going to be going on for which I mean is his prerogative. Like I said, she would have stayed in Edmonton. Vegas, of course, is a great city, but they're always in cap hell. And then we'll see. Florida potentially has been a hotbed for Russian players. Detroit, maybe. So the Canucks possibility. They're certainly, an appealing organization to play. You have Pedersen you can play on a line with. You have Brock Boeser, probably JT Miller. So they have options there where he can play at time, and he will get time to acclimate himself to the game. So it will be very interesting to see how that shakes coming days, to see where his decision is going. But coming up, what we're going to do is, because the drafting passed, the Canucks last 5 round draft picks, not any of the last 2 years, but starting back in 2015, we're going to work our way back, and I'm whether it was worth the pick for the Canucks or was it not worth it. So we're going to do that for the next week, and then we will then dive first round draft where potential the Canucks first round pick from that year on the roster for now. But first, I want to talk to you guys Athletic Greens. Please, excuse me. Next Partner has a product that I use. Next Partner, Athletic Greens, I use every day. I started taking Athletic Greens because I wanted more energy, better gut health, optimized immune system, and I hated taking pills, vitamins. I wanted to take a supplement that actually tasted great, and I wanted to see what the hype was about. I've been on it for a few months now, and I love it. It doesn't taste like it's super healthy. It has a kind of a mild tropical taste to it, which I love every morning. So what is this stuff? With one delicious scoop of Athletic Greens, you are absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole-sourced foods, superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help you start the day off right. This special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, recovery, focus, and aging, all these things. Again, I wanted more energy. That's why I took it. I told my friends and family about it, and they love it too. And also, whenever I travel back and forth from Toronto and Vancouver, I always have it packed with me. The importance of taking a multivitamin. There are tons of people that take some sort of multivitamin, and it's important to choose one with high quality ingredients that your body will actually absorb. Athletic Greens is one small micro habit with big benefits. It's one thing you can do every single day to take great care of yourself. Excuse me. Your subscription comes with a yearly supply of vitamin D, which is also important and adds in those winter months when we don't get as much sunlight, or in Vancouver right now. Right now, it is your time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. It's just one scoop and a cup of water every day. That is it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you 1 free year supply of immune supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/NHL network. Again, that is athleticgreens.com/NHL network. Take ownership over your health and pick the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. Also, today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. Also, we have an important favor to ask you. We've put together a survey so we can learn more about listeners like you and make your favorite Locked On podcast even better. This is your opportunity to tell us what you like and don't like about Locked On Podcast. Go to lockedonpodcast.com/survey right now to get started, and it won't take very long. Everyone that completes a survey can qualify for a chance to win one of 10 $100 Ticketmaster gift cards. To take your our audience survey, go to Locked On Podcast, .com/survey. Thank you for your help. Okay. So as I mentioned, we are going to dive into the Canucks draft history. Of course, the draft is upcoming, and I wanted to touch on where, it's not where, but what the Canucks draft record has been over the last few years and determine whether the picks were, especially the first round picks, were worth it or who they should have taken instead. Kind of a redraft sort of thing, depending on that position they were in. So, of course, the Canucks have not had a first round pick last year, of course, with the Oliver Ekman-Larsson deal, and the year before with the JT Miller trade. We won't touch on that, but we'll start off in 2015, where, of course, that was the year the Canucks were coming off the horrendous 2014 year, where John Tortorella was there, and then he was fired. And then, Jim Benning, Trevor Linden came in, brought in Willie Desjardins, Ryan Miller, Radim Verbata, and the Canucks pulled out a 100-point season, their last 100-point season. And they made the playoffs. They got eliminated in the first round by the Calgary Flames and Michael Furland. That feels like an eternity ago. But that was the year, of course. 2015 was the Connor McDavid, Jack Eichel draft, which, tanked for McDavid. And, of course, the Edmonton Oilers won, and they acquired the best player in hockey currently. Of course, Jack Eichel was, doing quite well in Buffalo, but Buffalo was a tire fire for years, and now he's in the Pacific Division with the Vegas Golden Knights, a team that just missed the playoffs. But I think Vegas will be back next year once they get everybody healthy. Of course, then you had Dylan Strome, who's now in Chicago, Mitch Marner, Noah Hannafin, who's now in Calgary, Pavel Zacha, Ivan Provorov, Zach Werenski, Timo Meyer, Mikko Rantanen, who will be in the Stanley Cup Finals. Yeah, Jake DeBrusk, Vancouver at Matthew Barzal, Kyle Connor, Thomas Chabot, Evgeny Svechnikov, Joel Eriksson Ek, Colin White, Travis Konechny, Jack Roslovic. There's some decent NHL players in this draft. Of course, you have Travis Dermott, who's taken the second round, who was a former Toronto Maple Leaf, but now is a Vancouver Canuck. Sebastian Aho, a all-star player for the Carolina Hurricanes, who are were a playoff team, and Rasmus Anderson with the Calgary Flames, who became a solid defenseman. So, there was a lot of, decent NHLs. Anthony Cirelli was a third-round pick who is now a prominent member of the Tampa Bay Lightning. A absolute shutdown center, Anthony Cirelli is. But I want to talk about the Canucks' first-round pick this year. In 2015, they selected, of course, Brock Boeser, 23rd overall out of the University of North Dakota. Boeser, it took him a few years to, played college a couple more years, and he finally signed with Vancouver and played his first game in the 2016-2017 season. And we saw his first full year. He played 62 games and scored almost 30 goals, was a Calder Trophy finalist. And, now 5 years into his career, Brock Boeser is at a current impasse. Is he going to get a new contract? Is he going to be a long-term fit? Is he going to get a bridge deal? So looking back at it, I think if we looked at it in a vacuum after this first rookie year, Brock Boeser was a slam dunk pick. He was, an immediate impact on the ice. Of course, scored 30 goals. Now you're kind of wondering if that was the right pick. When you look at the players that are picked around him, there's Jack Roslovic or Travis Konechny. Would they be worth it? Konechny's a decent player. out of Philly, but uh, let's pull up Konechny's stats here. He's been, he's again a right winger as well. He had 16 goals this year, 36 points. Him and Boeser have kind of, they've kind of put up similar numbers. I think Konechny he had 3 straight years of 24 goals a season. Kind of tailed off the last 2 years with 11 goals and 16 this past year. Where Boeser, of course, had his career high of 29 and 26. Injury plagued the year after with 16 and 23 and 22 the last 2 years. So, the Konechny and him have been kind of around the same ballpark area. I'd still take, of course, Brock Boeser. I think he has more upside than Travis Konechny. When you look at Jack Roslovic, who now is with the Winnipeg Jets, of course, he was the Columbus Blue Jackets. He was a Columbus native that was taken by Winnipeg, but was traded to Columbus. He had a career year this year with 22 goals. So when you're looking at that draft and in that vicinity the Canucks were selecting in, I think Boeser was the best pick for them on the board. Other than, you had your top echelon guys like the McDavid, Eichel, Marner, Rantanen. Those guys are all there. But, when you look at it, Canucks didn't do that bad. Brock Boeser, was in the upper echelon of that draft class, that first round of players, right? I still think Shabbat, Kyle Connor, Barzal are all better than Brock Boeser, of course, McDavid and Eichel. But considering where the Canucks were taking in that round, that's probably the best pick. I don't think, in hindsight, 2020, maybe they could have, grabbed an Aho and that. But then again, who knows if Aho would become Sebastian Aho in Vancouver. So if we're looking back at the 2015 draft, the Canucks made the right decision with Brock Boeser. He has been an impact player, maybe not to the large impact he was in his rookie year or his first couple years, but hopefully he can stay healthy and, looks like he's going to sign a bridge deal and get back on track and kind of bet on himself and have a career year next year, which I'm sure all Canucks fans are hoping for. And of course, Brock Boeser is hoping for, so we can cash in on another big deal. So that is that. Tomorrow we will dive into the 2016 NHL draft, which might have some more interesting takes. So stick around for that. But coming up after this break, I'm just going to go through the NHL Stanley Cup Finals and give you guys my pick so far and how this is a great matchup for the NHL. But first, I want to talk to you guys about betonline.net. Betonline.net, of course, is your number one source for all your betting stats and sports info. Find all the latest sports developments, news, and odds, including this year's basketball championship matchup, the NHL Conference Finals, now the Stanley Cup Finals, Major League Baseball, and of course, all the latest fighting news from MMA and UFC to boxing. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sporting wagering information, including live bets, esports, and more. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action. Bet online, where the game starts. So, last couple minutes of the show. This past weekend, the Stanley Cup finalists were announced. Not announced, but was determined as the Tampa Bay Lightning won in Game 6 against the New York Rangers, and their quest for 3 continues. And this probably will be their toughest test. If you actually look at the last couple of years, this was a Stanley Cup final. Many people were predicting the Lightning versus the Avalanche. The Avs never held up to their end of the bargain. And when you look at this Stanley Cup final and you look at this matchup, skill on skill, speed on speed, and it's going to be an absolute dream for the NHL. You have a team going for a three-peat the first time in nearly 40 years, or actually it will be 40 years next year. And you're going to see hockey at its purest form. High speed, high skill, puck possession, elite goaltending on one end of the ice with Andrei Vasilevskiy, who, quite frankly, it's not even a question. He's probably the greatest big-time money goalie we have seen in a very long time. As much as I love Carey Price, Henrik Lundqvist, Roberto Luongo, or whomever, whoever, pick your goalie of the last 10, 15 years, that was great. This guy right here in games in the clutch in playoffs is absolute money. And I think that is going to be the deciding factor, because you have great defensemen like Makar, Bowen Byram, who stepped up, Devon Taves, who has stepped up for Colorado. You have a guy like Victor Hedman, who's an absolute stud. You guys have heard what I said. I think Victor Hedman is not Nick Lidstrom, but he's right there. He's maybe a rung below Nick Lidstrom. He's definitely the greatest defenseman of this generation, outlasting guys like Doughty, Keith, and all those other guys that were mentioned, Subban, Weber, all those guys. Victor Hedman is so much better than all of them. It is absolutely amazing. You have the upfront skill with McKinnon, Landeskog, Rantanen. Um, Hopefully, maybe Kadri makes a return, right? Of course, you have Cirelli, who's a great two-way center, and the amount that Anthony Cirelli has shut down opposing teams' top lines has been absurd. Steven Stamkos is a big game player. Kucherov, Andre Palat is a timely playoff scorer, and you have great coaches with Jared Bednar and John Cooper. So this is going to be a series that is going to essentially be what the modern NHL is like and how you want to design a team through speed, puck possession, mobility, and at least on Tampa side, elite goaltending. So right now, before the series starts on Wednesday, but right now, I'm thinking Tampa's going to win because they have the better goalie. And I think Andrei Vasilevsky is going to win the Conn Smythe once again. And I think the Tampa Bay Lightning are going to win in game 6. Tampa in 6, I think. I'm going to go on a hedge and say Tampa in 6 for this series, but it's surely going to be great, and I'm excited, and I can't wait to watch it. But that is all the time we have for today's Monday edition of Locked On Canucks. Coming up tomorrow, as I did mention, we will look back at the 2016 draft and discuss whether the Canucks made the right move that year or not. I want to thank you for making Locked On Canucks your first listen of the day every day. Now, for your second listen, Locked On NHL. Locked On NHL covers the NHL playoffs like no other. Here are the latest news and opinions from local experts every Monday through Friday. It's free and available wherever you get your podcast services. All right, guys, take care. Stay safe. Talk to you tomorrow. Enjoy the basketball game if you're watching, and we will see you tomorrow.